The Lumix S5 is arguably the best camera for the money when it comes to image quality, especially for video. But there are also some concerns I have with that camera and some concerns I have with the Lumix S line in general. And today we talk about the good and the bad things. To give you some context, I own this camera for about a year now, and I have the 20-60mm kit lens and also the 50mm f1.8. I used that camera as my street photography and travel photography camera. I also did some portraits with that and also the YouTube videos which you see right now. But I do have to say, I'm not recording that video on the Lumix S5, I'm recording that video on the Fujifilm X-H2s. Starting off with the build quality of the Lumix S5, this camera is built so well, it really is incredible. It feels solid and heavy. The buttons are at the right place, it just feels natural to use it. Also the tilt out screen doesn't feel cheap. Overall, really great build quality. The only thing I don't like are the side doors because they feel very flimsy, and that camera got a weather sealing, although these side doors really don't make the impression to be really weather sealed because they open up very easily. But you probably can't always have everything. On the Fujifilm X-H2s I also have some problems with the build quality, and the Lumix S5 costs even less money, and in my opinion it's built a little bit better, except the side doors. I don't like them. On the Fuji X-H2s they are wonderful. On this camera they do the job. In terms of autofocus, it's probably no secret that the autofocus really isn't great for photography and videography. Especially for videography, the autofocus is really lacking. It really isn't doing a good job. And you might wonder why I bought it anyways if I want to film myself, and we get into that in just a minute, because the camera also got a lot of things going for it, but the autofocus isn't one of them. But if you want to focus manually, it feels great and way better than on my Fujifilm, for example. But you can't change the direction of the focus wheel, which I don't really understand, because you can nearly adjust every other setting about the manual focus, and you can't change the autofocus from pixel to film metering. I think that's how it's called. You might want to use that if you do street photography and want to zone focus. Something I also found out, which wasn't mentioned at all in any other review, is that you can't use the tracking autofocus in black and white. I don't know why. You can use the face eye detection autofocus and every other mode, but not the tracking autofocus in photography. It's a pain in the ass. I like to shoot black and white and I can't use the tracking autofocus, which I do have to admit, in photography it's probably the weakest point, the tracking autofocus, because it loses your object not every single time, but a lot of times. But I still want to use it. So why have I bought the camera anyways if I wanted to film myself and the autofocus isn't that great? Because the picture quality in both photography and videography is just phenomenal. In photography there are also other cameras in that price range which will do a very similar job, but there nearly isn't any camera which has the same specs for videography as the Lumix S5. This camera really is a beast. It just looks so detailed, so natural. I'm getting emotional when I'm talking about the picture quality, because this for me is probably the biggest selling point on the Lumix S5, the picture quality in video. If you want to manually focus, then this camera is just a beast. You will get amazing footage out of it. And you have a ton of great video function on that camera, like waveform, like false colors, like setting two zebras at the same time. It's a beast. Just a quick note, it would be really amazing if you like this video. If you liked it, then also subscribe to my channel to see more videos around photography and videography. And now let's go on. Touching a little bit on photography, like I said, it's doing a great job, but other cameras are also doing a great job at that price range. The video functions are really, for me, the biggest selling point on that camera, because you don't really get them on other cameras in that price range. Two things which really annoy me when I use that camera for photography. The first one is the delay in the LCD and EVF change. When you look at the LCD and then you want to take a closer look at your subject through the EVF, it just takes a little bit too much time for me. And if you go under a shutter speed of 1/60, then the refresh rate on the LCD also adjusts according to your shutter speed. So if you have a shutter speed of, let's say, 1/10, then the LCD and the EVF adjust the picture 10 times a second. So you basically have 6 FPS, which really isn't a smooth experience. You really want 60 FPS to have, yeah, just a smooth viewing experience, or even more. Like I said, I also have some concerns with the full-frame Lumix line in general. And it really seems to be very silent around the S line of cameras. You don't really hear too much rumors around a potentially new Lumix camera, maybe Lumix S5H, I heard something like that. But other than that, it's very silent. And there are a lot of cashback offers on these cameras, which for the consumer, it's great at first because you don't have to pay that much. But in the long run, you really want to have a company which is running a sustainable business. And I can't see that happening at Lumix right now with all these cashback offers. Because if you make a product which people actually want to buy, then you probably also don't need a whole lot of cashback offers. And you probably also shouldn't buy a Lumix S5 in hopes for a better AF in the future, so that you might buy an S5 and in the future you upgrade then to a Lumix camera which has better AF, because AF is still kind of important to you. I just can't see Lumix improving a ton in the AF performance in the next generation, because they haven't used face detect autofocus in previous cameras. So it will probably take them at least 2 generations from now to be comfortable with that technology. So in my opinion, also the next Lumix camera won't have amazing autofocus, because if companies implement a new technology, it most of the time takes them a little bit. Yes, maybe they could be fixed with firmware updates and stuff like that, but I think from the start the autofocus on a potentially new Lumix camera is not phenomenal. So overall, the Lumix S5 really is a great camera for photography and videography if you don't need autofocus, but I just don't know how the future of this lineup looks. I really do hope that they will implement an amazing autofocus and that more people get into the Lumix ecosystem, because the cameras are just pretty damn good. So if you liked the video, then please like it and comment your opinion on the current state of the Lumix full frame line down in the comments, and share this video with a friend who also thinks about buying a new camera.